Good morning and welcome to the Travel Couch by House of Travel. I'm your host, Jeff Leckey, and I'm joined today by Dennis Payne, the owner-operator of House of Travel in Orewa. Good morning, Dennis.
Hey, Jeff. How you doing?
Awesome, mate. And we're so excited because we love river cruising. And so today we're going to talk about some tips, some tricks, some of our favorite rivers, and some of the things that you can expect when you travel by river cruise. So the first thing we'd like to say is we've got a chat box enabled on here. So please feel free to drop any questions in as we're going through the presentation. We do have one of our team online who'll be able to answer any instant questions. So please feel free to chat with us while we're talking. Now, Dennis, one of the things, the biggest myth I think about river cruising is it's just for old people, right?
Apparently.
Like us.
Yeah. To me, river cruising is, before I went on the first one, I would have thought exactly that. If I use the last one as a good example, instead of going on expecting it to be 70s and 80s, I felt that there was a real proportion of 50 and 60-year-olds on there, which was really cool because by having it reduce, what we're doing is we're changing it from being just about walking stuff into doing a whole lot of other things. You know, we got into each day, we were able to go off and do bike trips. It was really cool.
Hiking, biking, kayaking, wine tasting. I mean, there's so much to do on the river cruise and there's so many activities. Hey, like what we'd like to just do now is take a little look at some of these destinations that we're going to be visiting on the river. Now, Dennis, I know that the heart of the city is such a big thing with river, right? I mean, these are the old trade routes of Europe. The wars were fought over these. People were moving up and down these waterways long before highways and byways were built, right?
Absolutely. And you've got a picture there of the Parliament buildings in Budapest, and I would call Budapest my favourite spot to start a river cruise. I've started from both ends on the Budapest to Amsterdam cruise, but there's something really neat about arriving into Budapest and walking around, experiencing Buda and across the river, Pest, and then you come down and your river cruise is sitting right there. So what you can see in front of you comes along, and that's where all the river cruises are sitting, all the river cruise boats. We would then sail off in the evening, and as we're sailing away, the lights were up here on Parliament buildings. And, you know, as you're coming along the Danube, you start coming along into cool little towns. Your next stop was Bratislava, and then you're moving on to Vienna and Regensburg. It's just delightful.
It is a beautiful river, certainly one of my favourites. This is the Blue Danube, right? So, and there's some little gems along the way, isn't there? You can follow in the footsteps of Richard the Lionheart at Dürnstein. There's the castle where he was imprisoned. And a little surprise for me in the Czech Republic, Český Krumlov. What a beautiful town.
Gorgeous town. The day we arrived into Český Krumlov was there was a big festival on in town, so people were arriving wearing clothes that were hundreds of years old, and we just felt as if we were part of it. The interesting decision to make if you're going up to Český Krumlov, which was an optional excursion, it's about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from the river. The same day, people were heading down to Salzburg, and they were going down to listen about the Sound of Music and Julie Andrews. But we're coming up through the Wachau Valley, and I stayed on the boat this time, and it was just delightful.
I mean, that Sound of Music trip, you kind of sing all the songs on the bus, don't you? I opted for Český. I thought it was a bit more my thing. I wasn't going to channel my inner Julie Andrews, but Vienna, Melk, Linz, there's some beautiful places along this river, isn't there? I mean, every turn in the river is another spectacle.
Yep, very cool.
And one of the things that really impressed me about river cruising, anywhere that you river cruise, is this whole farm to table experience, right? So they collect the provisions along the way, and they produce beautiful food on board.
Fantastic food on board, and you know, that's a great shot of people just going off on a walking tour. It's not actually what you'd expect on a walking tour, but it's the kind of thing you get. And you know, in the back there obviously are grapes, and so you're picking up to test the local wines as well. The food on board was exceptional, be it that we're starting with breakfast, be it, you know, coming down, you've either got the choice of having a big lunch, a formal lunch, or bread rolls and wraps, through to dinner, you know. And dinner again just kept delighting, and you're right, the local food was coming out each of the way along there, and we'd be testing the local wines. And I don't reckon I ever left dinner inside an hour to an hour and a half. You know, we're just chatting about what we've seen for the day.
Well, it's so inclusive, isn't it? I mean, the majority of river cruises would include wine and beer with lunch and dinner, but some of them are completely all-inclusive too, aren't they?
Oh, that kind of spooks me a bit, actually having it all-inclusive, because, you know, we'd go down and we'd have the 5 o'clock happy hour each day, and you know, so you can talk about what you've been up to, and then you go down for dinner and they'll give you another beer or local wine, and they just didn't seem to be shy about it.
No rush.
It was a neat
No.
experience.
This is one of my favorite places on the French rivers. This is Avignon, for people who like the song Sous le Pont d'Avignon. Maybe that's just me. But your riverboat parks right next to the pont here, and you can see the old town in the background. We got off the boat, we went into the old town at night time, and then there was a huge Ferris wheel parked right on that grassy part there by the bridge. And we thought, what a nice experience. It's all illuminated at night, you know. So there we were thinking, wonder why nobody else is doing this. And off we go, Ruth and I, we jump on the Ferris wheel. At night time, when all the lights are on, every moth for 1 million miles away decides to descend on the Ferris wheel. So my tip, do the Ferris wheel during the day.
And what a cool town to walk around at night, you know, so you don't have to worry about the moth.
Food and music festivals too, you're right. There are music festivals all the way along the French rivers in summertime. There's lots going on the bank. Let's just take a quick poll. We'd like to have a look at who's joined us today. What sort of river cruiser are you? Are you the active adventurer, or are you relaxed and rested?
So, you know, if we talk about those options, we just quickly chatted about, you know, going off and doing the walking trips. And each day there will be a walking trip that'll head into each town. And we would find with the walking trips is that you've got those that want to go ultra quick and they're heading off. And you've got those who are in that older age group you mentioned before, and they're struggling to get around too quick. And there might have been half a dozen in our group. And then the rest of us were in the middle. And what would be cool is you'd head off, you'd have a couple of hours walking around, and the nice thing about the river is it's never that far back to the boat, you know. So if you got distracted, you can just walk back to the boat. Others of us would actually jump on the bike, and there was no Lycra to be seen. We'd be heading off on the bikes, and we'd be biking around in the town. Or there was one day where we'd arranged with the captain. We got off the boat and we biked along the river for about 30 k's and got back on the boat. What a cool experience.
It's fantastic. The way to really experience Europe. And the relaxed and rested people are the winners, it seems, for the active adventurers. I mean, we've got a few active adventurers out there. Pretty close, but it's good to see. Hey, this sort of, for me, really sums up the heart of Europe, right? There you are, nighttime, parked up right in the center of town. It's just spectacular, isn't it?
It brings back what I was saying before. The advantage of the river cruise is, and you talked about the main routes that the boats would be going, you're right smack bang in the middle of the town. You're never more than a couple hundred meters away from the boat.
And you know what? No unpacking and packing. Like, you get on, you unpack loads of storage space in your room, and literally you just enjoy. I've done tours through Europe too, and the difference is on a tour, you unpacking and unpacking every day. You're living out in a suitcase, not so much on a river cruise.
And no need to worry about having to lug your bag. You know, getting onto another train or getting onto another coach tour or whatever, you're bang on.
Yeah, this is a great little excursion. We were talking about this earlier, weren't we? About how you can take the cable car to the top and you can walk down, or you can cable car both ways. Some fantastic shore excursions along the river. Lots of things to do. This was one of my absolute faves. This is a bike tour of Vienna. So we took the bikes. We had a local guide with us. We had the active host off the ship with us, and off we went around Vienna. And we stopped in those famous coffee shops for Viennese coffee and Sachertorte, and then we redeemed ourselves by cycling further around the city. But what a great city! It's so much to see there.
You could say that to any of the cities you're coming on. Vienna, to me, doesn't feel like a big city. It actually feels like a series of small towns, but there's hundreds of years of history there.
And all those Habsburg palaces, I don't know, they were a bit crazy with the old palaces, weren't they? One of the great things about this bike ride was we went through the nightlife area during the daytime, which is down on the river in Vienna, and there's the coolest bars and things, a real vibey place down there. This is an aerial shot of the Arma Magna, which was the ship I was on in Europe. It's twice the size of normal river ships, and it lives only on the Danube. But look at this, you've got a full-size pickleball court on board, you've got a swimming pool, every day people would return from their excursions and there would be a huge competition in this pickleball court. It was fantastic. You don't expect to do that on a river cruise, do you?
And did right. And you know, I talked before about how you can head off and do your walking tours in the morning. That there is how you spend your afternoons. You know, be it in the pool, be it in the spa, be it just sitting around and just chatting about what you've been up to.
I mean, this is you guys on your bike trip, right?
Yep.
Lots of stops along the way.
And we did. So as you can see, there's no lycra there, and a good age group, you know, a variance of age group. But we'd walk out, there were 14, 15 bikes sitting out there. This particular day, I think we had 12 of us. And there goes our rep over there on the right-hand side. And they'd talk about, you know, as we're biking along, we'd be getting that history that you're getting on the walking tour, but we're getting it on the bike.
It's perfect. It's perfect. And of course, the good thing about rivers is they're flat, right? Or mostly flat. So apart from when you hit a lock every now and again, but riding along the riverbanks, super, super easy. And let's talk about your rooms on board the ship. You know, this is a sort of a great river view, right? You can just pop your head out at any time and see the view.
I think this is how I like to have people picture what the experience is that you're getting on the ship. This is a French balcony, so as you can see, the windows opening up, and you're leaning on there, and you're able to look out. The one thing to know is that all the canals are the same size. So no matter how hard you try, you can't have any of these river cruises be any wider or any longer. So they've all got the same amount. So if you do end up having a full balcony, you're actually missing out on some of the room inside your ship. You know, the pricing that is done often for river cruises is based on what I call the swan view, so down on the water view. And you can stand up, you can look out the window, you can always walk out and go upstairs and have a look from up there. But there is something particularly special about having the windows that open up onto a balcony.
Yeah, totally. I mean, one of my favorite rivers outside of Europe is the Mekong in Vietnam. We're just going to have a quick look at the Mekong River now. And we're just going to give you a little sample of a slightly different type of river cruise, right? Because the Mekong, look, it's wide. It doesn't have all those towns along the way. So you're traveling through paddy fields. You're seeing villages. You're seeing life as it happens on the side of the river.
Absolutely. What a splendid way to be able to finish off traveling through the likes of Vietnam and Cambodia. It's become such a cool place to get to, and Kiwis are going there in their droves. But what a neat way to either finish, you know, drop in the middle, or actually end with a 3 or 4 or 7 night cruise up the Mekong. It does give a really neat experience. And
so much culture along the way. This is our favorite itinerary in Vietnam. So we totally suggest that you bookend it with Ho Chi Minh and Siem Reap. Ho Chi Minh, crazy city. Have you ever seen so many motorbikes?
And it's where I first learned to walk across a road with your eyes shut. Basically, you walk across any road in Vietnam, and the motorbikes, there's just hundreds of them, as you say. They come around you. They actually work out where you are rather than you working out where they are.
I haven't quite figured that one out. One thing I did love when we were in Ho Chi Minh was I got to do a whole cookery experience there with a local chef. We cooked the best Vietnamese food I've ever tasted. I was the chef, so must have had a very good teacher, because it's never turned out like that since. But and then at the end of the river, at least 3 nights in Siem Reap, because you want to see Angkor Wat. Angkor Wat is just incredible, and the river cruises will usually include that sunrise trip to the monument. So shiver shake moment, right?
Totally. I totally agree.
And then the other river cruise that you can't miss, the granddaddy of all river cruises, the Nile, right? Now, Dennis, this is a little bit different to how you did the Nile a few years ago.
I've got to acknowledge that the first time I went down the Nile was on a felucca. It was nothing like this, but it really did open my mind as to where Egypt was at. I arrived in there quite naive, and came down into the lower stretches of the Nile here. And you've got little canals and you know, stuff going on for farming in and around there, which I had no idea it was as green and as interesting as it actually is.
Look, I mean, and our favourite things here, before you start your river cruise, allow some time in Cairo, because the new Egyptian Museum is now open. It is an architectural spectacle in itself. It's close to the pyramids. It has all the King Tut exhibits. It's just amazing. You'll want to spend a day there. It really is incredible. And then you also have the opportunity from Aswan to go to Abu Simbel, Dennis. I believe you did that.
I did, and everybody goes to Egypt to see the pyramids, but Abu Simbel to me would be one of the more remarkable sites I've seen anywhere in the world. It goes back over a couple of thousand years when it was created, and basically the idea was that the sun would shine on the god's face on the solstice. And as it turned out, it was sitting down the bottom of the Nile, and they were going to dam the Nile. So back in the early 60s, they picked it up and moved it up onto the top of the cliff. And now it's a day late with the sun on it. But just to wander around and see this is really cool.
Look, and some good reading tips before you go. Read some of the books about Ramesses II, because he was responsible for building a lot of these temples of Luxor, Karnak, and also Abu Simbel. So a little bit of history. You'll get it on the river cruise anyway. There's lots of lectures, lots of information. I think a river cruise is a very big learning experience, isn't it, really?
Well, lots of time. You've got time to reflect and which you don't always get when you're actually trying to do it your own way.
Yeah, and well, you can reflect here, lying on your bed, looking out at the Nile, can't you? Really, that looks a lot more comfortable than a felucca.
Not a bed, and again, I love the way how that bed's set up, and you're actually looking out the window.
Straight out.
I think that's a really cool feature on it.
And that's something to look for. There are a few river cruise lines who specialise in that, right? Because it does make a little bit of a difference. This is my little tip for you. If you're planning on doing a Douro river cruise in Portugal, which is absolutely one of my faves, possibly because I'm in love with pastel de nata, which are my favourite Portuguese tart. But this is a bookshop in Porto, Livraria Lela. It was the inspiration for J.K. Rowling's moving staircases in Harry Potter. And I'll give you a little tip here. The queue to get in here is 3 hours long. But if you jump online on their website and you buy a book for €6, you can go straight in because you're a customer.
It's perfect.
It's perfect, right? Little tips like that. We've got lots of tips in store that our consultants can share with you. But right now, we want to show you a little video of a brand new river experience. And this is the Columbia River the Magdalena River in Colombia. Armour Waterways have pioneered this new product. There's been no commercial riverboats on the Magdalena River since the 1960s. Wow. So Armour Waterways have worked with the government in Colombia and all the local communities along the way. They've had the river dredged, they've built jetties along the way, and they've worked with those local communities to offer experiences as you go. So something completely different, right?
And I mean, the people watching this out there are probably thinking, why would I go to Colombia? And I think just because you've actually got a whole different experience here. Look, if you talk about South America, people may consider the Amazon or the upper reaches of the Amazon. But wow, this is very exciting,
right? Yeah, and this has to be one of the ultimate river cruise experiences. 28 people on this river cruise on the Chobe River. This is a safari on the water. I mean, animals come to the water, right? So you're literally floating right through the whole thing. You saw this recently.
I was just going to say, we were in Chobe probably 6 weeks ago, and it was the first time, and we were actually on a smaller boat on the river, and I went past this. I was like, oh my goodness, what a cool way to see the best parts of Botswana or Southern Africa.
Yeah.
So we got to experience a herd of elephants crossing the river here, and but you got hippos, you had crocs, you got everything all right there on the water.
And I don't know that people actually think about this when they come about river cruising. It's 28 people though, so you got to book this one really, really early. Again, this is an Armour Waterways product. Hey, we're just going to do one more quick poll, and we're just going to say, which of your rivers do you think would be your favourites? What's highest on your bucket list?
Okay, I mean, hey, you like the idea of getting along the Danube? It's my favourite. The Mekong brings a whole different avenue to looking at Vietnam and Asia. The Douro, the food and the wine and the port and everything else and the bookshops. The Nile, what a cool way to get a different perspective of Egypt, and I think is one of those. Drop it in there. And Colombia, South America, Amazon.
So
Love it.
different.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because Colombia, you could combine that with Galapagos, you could combine it with the Amazon, you could make it part of a much bigger sort of Central South American trip, couldn't you really? And there's a clear winner here, and it looks like our mate, the old Blue Danube.
It really is the coolest way of traveling through Europe, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, when we did it in Europe, we bookended it with Prague at the beginning and a longer stay in Budapest at the end. But
I agree with that.
Bratislava is one of the, I don't know, it's a hidden gem, right? It's such a cool place.
Well, the thing is, you're coming off at Bratislava. You've just left Budapest. You're just getting a feel for. I'm on this river cruise now for the next 16 days, if you're going all the way through to Amsterdam. And then you wander into this town, and it's exactly what you imagine Central Europe is going to be like. The history, beautiful trees, people sitting out around the tables. And as you walk in on the excursion, which is included, you're getting to hear some of the history on it. But I wandered back to the boat, and then I couldn't get back out there fast enough just to go and sit down and have a coffee.
And we bought some beautiful souvenirs in Bratislava, just such different things. It was fantastic. Hey, we're just going to share some of our river cruise tips with you now, because there's a few things that it's good to know when you're booking a river cruise. First of all, we aren't joking when we say you need to book early. There's a reason for that, really, Dennis, isn't there?
Absolutely. And it could sound like a sales pitch. It's absolutely not. You've got to remember that most of these river cruise boats have got 100 to 150 people on board. First in, best dressed. So my advice to anyone thinking of a river cruise is, if you're going next season, get onto it now. Actually, I reckon a year in advance is the right time. But you really want to pick whereabouts you are on the ship as well.
Yeah, you can get a bit of vibration at the back, can't you?
You can, and particularly coming up and over the main river. So between the Danube and between the Rhine, you're coming over the main, and you've got multiple canals you're coming through. Now, if you're sitting right down the back of the ship, whether you like it or not, you're going to get the vibration as the ship's going in at night time and into those canals, and then basically as they're leaving again.
I think that's a really good tip. And swan view versus balcony. We talked about this earlier, didn't we? But I mean, there's nothing wrong with a swan view if you want great value. I mean, it still gets you the full experience. But as you said earlier, just having that balcony makes it a whole different holiday.
Well, all the pricing is always based on the water view room, and so not everybody wants to pay that extra to go up. I just think it's really worthwhile considering paying that extra. Sure. And if you can pay to go up to the top deck, that's even better.
Even better. Now, there is a bit of an elephant in the room or in the river, and it's not just in Africa. With water levels, water levels can actually make or break your holiday. How does that actually work?
Yeah, a lot of people will talk about it, and I like to be really upfront about how the water levels work. You're paying a lot of money to go on a river cruise, and you want it to be a river cruise the whole way through, not become a coach tour. So the two areas that I talk about is the low level, and this could easily happen in June, July, or August, okay, because it depends on if they're getting a drought there. You got one area on the Rhine which actually has rapids, and that affects the draft, of the boat going through, and there'll be times when the boat has to sit below or above the rapids and wait for those water levels to improve. Now, by choosing a company that does have more than a few boats on the river, you're improving your chances of coming up to the rapids, and then find out there's another one on the other side. You'll go off, do your walking tour. You would have packed your bags. When you come back, you get onto the other boat. That boat does a U-turn and carries on. Now, when you're working on one that doesn't have a lot of options, that could mean that you've got a bit of time on a coach trying to catch up to another boat.
Yeah, that's a really good tip.
The other way around with high levels as well, because a lot of these bridges were built immediately after the war.
Yeah,
and so they're dead flat bridges, and they can't get under them.
Yeah. Interestingly, Armour Waterways, they turn around in Vilshofen instead of Regensburg, which is below the water problem. So it's little tips like that are worth considering. Hey, Dennis, you recommend good walking shoes.
Absolutely.
I'm in the camp that says if you haven't biked for a while, you might want to take some bike pants with a bit of a gel seat in there as well, because 30 Ks on a bike after you haven't biked in a while, it can be a bit tough. A
little bit of time.
Yeah, thanks, Dennis, for your time, and I hope you've enjoyed the session today. We really love river cruising, and we know that you will too. we'd just like to give a little plug for our latest cruise catalogue, which you can find in store right now. There's lots of tips in here on all kinds of cruising, but also river cruising. So please pop in store. There is also a digital version online. Thanks so much for your time today, Dennis, and we'll get out on the rivers again soon.
It's always cool talking river cruising.
Thanks, Dennis.